Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio, and I'm glad to be here. It's Wednesday, January 27th, 9:30 p.m. Calgary, Alberta time. I hope you've all had a great day. I'm happy to be here. I'm always happy to be here, and I appreciate the support, and I hope this is meaningful for you guys, and it's a very important topic tonight. I just wanted to, we're going to continue on with the topic of male survivors of sexual abuse and domestic violence, because I think this is a topic that is so important, and I support anyone who's making a difference in for all human rights, for men, women, and children. So I think I stand with the men out there who have gone through this. I know some men who were victims of domestic violence, and I just think it's so important to support the male victim as well. There are lots of men out there who are hurting just like us, and they need to know that they have support, and they need to know that people are standing up for them too. And so many times I think they don't report abuse just because of the shame and the stigma surrounding it. And so that's why I want to continue on with this show just until we finish what we want to talk about. It's so important. It's important to cover all areas of abuse, and I just think it can't be talked about enough. So this is a blogtalkradio.com live internet streaming radio show, and I have a guest call-in number. You're more than welcome to phone in. I just don't welcome any bashing or any kind of negative comments, as this is really all about positive change. Positive change in our society, positive change in our families, in our own lives, in our hearts. And in order to have anything good being done about to stop abuse, it's going to have to be positive change, right? Because negative just breeds more negativity. But if we stay positive and we focus on what the actual problems are, I really believe that we can make a real huge dent in this thing. And so I just welcome people to the show. I have a guest call-in number, 917-889-3736. We'll be on for about half an hour here. And, I welcome you all. I just want to do some housekeeping, and I just want everybody to know that none of my shows are professional, and I am not a qualified professional counselor or legal representative, and I have no professional certificates. The opinions expressed on my show when I'm not reading from written material are my own, and I cannot guarantee the quality or correctness of the websites that I use or refer, because I'm not in charge of those websites, right? So you have to make that decision for yourself. You also have to listen at your own discretion, because if you are sensitive to any of the topics relating to abuse, I really don't want you to listen to the show, because I certainly don't want anyone to go away with a bad feeling, and I want you to be in a safe place when you're listening to this show. It's very important, and that's just my thing. I think you know what's good for you, and so if you feel like the show's topic is just going to be not something that you're going to be comfortable with, please don't listen. You have the option and the right to change the channel, turn it off, and I would hope that you would, because everyone has to make that decision for themselves, right? And I am very particular about what I share on here, as I'm a survivor of child abuse, sexual abuse, and everything else. So I am very sensitive myself. So I'm very cautious, and I choose my material very carefully. And, that's why I can't guarantee what's on the other websites. There might be something that someone doesn't particularly care for on some of these websites. But it's up to you to make that judgment call. But I just go with the material. I read through it, and I just make sure that I think it's something that's worth sharing. So that's what I do. It's not a professional counseling or therapy session. I'm not a professional, and I just want everybody to know that, so that we're all on the same page. And if you're under the age of 18, please get some consent before you listen to the show, only because I think it's important that parents know if you have a good caregiver, and I just hope and pray that you do have good parents and good caregivers that would allow you to become educated and aware of abuse. But it is important that if you're underage, that you do get some consent from a parental guardian or caregiver before listening to a show like this. I might at some point down the road do something more in line for youth, as I was young once too, and I know that the issues out there's lots and lots of issues out there with youth, and I am a child abuse prevention and awareness advocates. So, but I just want you all to be safe. That's all. And so, anyone with any sensitivity, please make sure that you don't listen to the show. That's all I ask. And I always include my information regarding the topic. Like for each show that I do, I always mention the topic, and that way if it's something that will bother you, you can just change the channel right away. You don't have to listen to it at all. And I always reference my material, so you can go on those websites and you can find out. You can follow along with me when I'm reading if you like, and you can see for yourself what I'm reading and check it out for yourself, right? Just to make sure it's something that you feel is something you're interested in listening to. So yeah, we'll get right into it. I'm just excited because I feel for the male victim, because I know in society, just being on some of these websites, for instance, helpguide.org. I love that website. The numbers of abuse that women report are so much higher than the numbers that a male victim reports, and people kind of tend to think that males aren't victims just because of that, but there are male victims out there, and there are men that are being battered and abused and in all kinds of ways, and it's really sad. And I just think it needs to stop, right along with child abuse. All human rights abuses need to stop. So I just wanted to cover this. It's just so important. And last week, it was last week that we were, it might have been Monday night as well. Last Monday, we were talking about, I was reading from Abused Men, Domestic Violence Works Both Ways. And this is an article that I found on Healthy Place. And that is that's Aardvark. HTTP www.aardvarc.org, aardvark.org. And I really like this article. I was also reading from Healthy Place last Monday night, but we finished up that article, and now we're on Aardvark's Abused Men, Domestic Violence Works Both Ways. We covered on Monday night genders of abuse, causative elements, and different reporting, because, a lot of times men don't report abuse, and if they do, they're ridiculed for it. And then they don't report it again if it happens, because nothing happened, and the first time nothing was solved, and so they just continue on dealing with that. And we know that women do the same thing, and children really, unfortunately and sadly, are often not able to get help for themselves, and so reporting abuse is just really a real problem for everyone out there. And so that's why it's so important to really become educated on the issues surrounding abuse, right? So that we can be on the lookout for people around us who might need a hand, or who just might need a shoulder, right? Somebody to know that you care, and that you're there for them, right? So I just think that's so important. I want to continue on with this article from Aardvark, www.aardvark.org, and it says getting water from a rock. I'm just going to read right from it because I thought it was pretty good, and I wanted to read this and share it. It says, getting water from a rock. Similarly, reactions and responses to men experiencing domestic violence are often little more than puzzled looks, shrugged shoulders, and referrals to the local homeless shelter. This reaction can sometimes be because of disbelief, sometimes because of suspicion. You wouldn't believe the number of abusive men who have claimed to be victims in order to try to get into secure shelters, or otherwise find their victims to continue the abuse and control, or worse, and sometimes just out of not knowing what else to do or how to help. I was working at a very busy shelter for almost 8 months before I got the first phone call from a man seeking services, so it's really not a common question. This is what this person writes here in this article. And they said, sometimes abused men will call their local domestic violence shelter, and the domestic violence shelter will turn them down for admission, and the victim, not knowing what else to do, will never call back for other services. They will try to resolve the abusive relationship on their own, or will simply go back to the abuse. Let us shed a little light on this common complaint. So see, this is a real issue, I guess. Personally, I haven't actually talked to anyone who's actually gone through that, who's tried to get help from a shelter and couldn't get any help. But I can see that it probably can happen, right? And there's enough women being turned away just because of resources. And so, you think the male victim just doesn't stand a chance out there. So we're here. I'm here to support you. And if I can help you find numbers or phone numbers or information on the website, please let me know. And I have my guest call-in number. I'll read it out again: 917-889-3736. You're more than welcome to phone in if you have something topic related or a great resource that you want to share with people. For instance, a website that for supporters, survivors and supporters of male sexual abuse or male domestic violence. It's very important to share this information and get this out here so that people will know that it's there, right? Even for myself, I'm constantly searching and constantly looking for information. And, there's lots of good information out there, and there's only so much time during the day to do it, to find this stuff. So, if anyone has anything they'd like to share, please do. This is a U.S. number, so the guest call-in number is down in the U.S. And feel free to phone if you'd like to. I'm just going to keep reading here. First, it must be remembered that most shelters are not set up for co-ed habitation. Most are in found facilities, like an unused government property that has been filled with bunk beds, or a foreclosed property in a residential neighborhood. Only a very few lucky programs have actually built a place designed to be a domestic violence shelter, and even fewer have the luxury of being able to integrate his or her spaces within that shelter. If you've never been in a shelter, understand that privacy is pretty non-existent, and that having mixed genders under the same roof, especially with teenage girls and young women running around, just isn't wise, and can be a huge liability issue given the nature of the business and the many issues often associated with domestic violence, which makes victims more likely to be re-victimized in other ways. So that's quite an issue, isn't it? Overwhelmingly, victims seeking shelter are women, and there are a lot of reasons for this too. And donors, grantors, and foundations that fund such programs rely on statistics which tell them that most men are better able to work to support themselves. So allocation of resources for men is minimal, see. There actually used to be shelters specifically for abused men, one in California and at least one in Colorado Springs. This is what they're saying here. Started just like most domestic violence shelters are by victims. But since even most men can't be convinced that men can be victims of domestic violence, they've all pretty much closed due to lack of funding. So even the domestic violence hotline for men, which was actually founded by a woman, ended up changing to a more general purpose hotline and is now the domestic violence helpline for men and women. And they list that number there at 888-743-5754. I don't know how old this article is, so there's no date on it. So I don't know if that number is any good or not, but I'll have some resources here at the end of the show. If you are a man reading this article because you have been a victim and are seeking help, please consider that in order to remain as a viable resource, that hotline needs your financial support, and this website does too. Okay, so that's what they have to say about that. All funding of any social service program is based on two factors: demonstrable statistics and a track record to show funders that the program is supported by the community it serves. Now that's for sure. I know that that's true. And while the number of cases of domestic violence committed by women against men might be on the rise, thanks to more men reporting and more police arresting, the number of cases where men have killed women, particularly after leaving them, dwarfs the number of men killed by women or by those hired by the women to kill on her behalf. So, the numbers just are there, and they speak for themselves, right? Statistically, what they have to work with, and that's what the allocations for the funding goes on. They go by the statistics, right? That's why it's so important to report abuse and report domestic violence and get so we can help solve this stuff, right? And get you to a safe place. If you're listening and you're in an abusive relationship and suffering from domestic violence and domestic abuse, if you're a male victim or a female victim, or a child who is being abused, please, if your life is in danger, call 911. Make the call the crisis lines. I go over this on all my shows. It's so important because you need to get yourself safe. Everyone deserves the chance to have a good life, and you do too. And so if you're out there and you're listening, make sure that you get help. So many people that I have known in my lifetime never reached out, never got any help. Their lives were ruined. Lots of people that I've known, their lives were just ruined. And so you don't have to live like that. And it might take, it's a long road. It's a long, hard road. And but that doesn't mean it can't be done. especially if you stick with it. I believe that whatever you're searching for, if you search for it long enough and you search for it hard enough, which could be freedom and an abuse-free life, healing and wholeness, you will find it. Because just by searching, you're causing a positive reaction to come back to you, right? So just by reaching out, you're going to cause that to happen. You're going to put the ball in motion, and before you know it, people are going to start reaching out to you. That's what happened to me, and it's what happened to a lot of people that I've talked to. So it's so important to reach out and find a resource that works for you, and a group of people that support you and get behind you, and because we all need that. We all do. Everyone needs to have that support in their life, and especially people, survivors of abuse. They really need that support. So, and I know, and it's hard. We all only have so many resources and so much time, but even just to be a shoulder and just have a phone call and just give somebody your number and say, look, if you need to talk, I'm here for you. I might not be able to help you like physically or financially, but I'm certainly here to listen to you because I care, right? And so that's the thing, right? Just being there for people, I think that's important. So yeah, it says here, I'll just continue on. Since that scenario, getting out and living to tell about it is the primary concern when bringing a victim into domestic violence shelters, men are not likely to see much changing in the way of accessibility to existing domestic violence shelters. Thus, the reason for referral to a local homeless shelter, because the need is seen as a shelter need as opposed to an immediate safety crisis need. See, if the number of men killed by their partners experiences a vast jump or shows an increasing trend over time, which would be so sad, that might change in the future, but let's just hope not, right? Because this needs to stop. But short of that happening to the tune of a drastic level, secure housing in a facility specifically designed for domestic violence victim security, security cameras, bulletproof glass, and the whole 9 yards, they said, is going to remain almost completely slanted in favor of women victims, and it says, and it should. Victims in immediate danger should be in a shelter and not at home. And the thing is we know that men are just as anyone is sadly can kill. There's no one beyond that, and it's so sad. Women kill men, men kill women, men kill men, women kill women. People are killing kids. It's sad, and it just has to stop. And I tell you, I'm just going to keep saying that until it does. The other issue showing that the community wants the program, as evidenced by a track record of support from individuals and businesses, or business within the community being served, is the primary area where services to male victims fall flat. The vast amount of services now available for female victims didn't happen overnight, and services for male victims won't either. Because even though some more recent research suggests that rates for domestic abuse are approaching more of a 60-40 ratio, that's just what they're saying here, suggesting way more male victims than most predicted, programs designed to provide services for male victims fail to receive the crucial support needed from the individual men and from men-owned businesses. Until men can get past the denial of male victims, until male victims are willing to go public with their stories, a major factor in drawing initial public support for many women-oriented programs, and until they are willing to help found, fund, and support those programs beyond infancy to the point where those programs are established enough to seek longer-term funding from government agencies, private foundations, and corporate donors, the lack of specialized services for male victims promises to remain woefully lacking. It really does come down to speaking out with your checkbook. So I guess they're saying we really have to start funding these, because the government, will only do what the public support is there to, if the government sees that the public support is there, they'll throw in their funding. But if the public support and the community support and business support is not there, the government doesn't really want to back it up. So it says, it's not the amount that's important, it's the number of supporters who find the issue important enough to cause them to take action. If there's not such a program in your community that you can support, try another avenue. Support your current local domestic violence program and ask that funds that you contribute be earmarked especially for use in providing services like hotel vouchers or converting court fees for male victims. So this is really quite interesting. This is what needs to happen to get more services, more shelters and for male victims and survivors of domestic violence. So important, right? I know that there's men out there who are victims of this, and I know my heart just goes out to you, and it just brings awareness to us all that it's the same with child abuse or violence against women, sexual assault, the whole thing. All of these abuses really need to come out front and center. They need to be part of the public eye. They need to be what the public is speaking about, and that the public will support programs that will help create more resources for these survivors of these horrible abuses, and really make some real change in people's lives, because really you don't deserve to suffer any abuse, and really no one should. And it's so sad that so many people are. We know it's a fact, and a lot of people like to turn a blind eye. I don't know. I've always wondered about that. Why society turns a blind eye against because they don't want to look at abuse. And you can be talking to somebody and maybe mention something about abuse to them, and they just really don't want to hear it. And I'm not sure if it's just because they in their own lives never experienced it. But see, I've talked to lots of people who grew up in awesome homes and did not suffer child abuse and never saw any domestic violence, and they care. So I think it's really all a matter. It's an issue of what's in your heart, and some people just don't have a heart to care about it. So it's unfortunate because these are human beings. These are people. These are our neighbors, our friends, our family members, our brothers, our sisters, our aunts and uncles, grandparents, you name it. This is our world. These are the people in our world, and I think I look around and I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. Like, what is going on? I can't believe I didn't get off the couch a long time ago. I guess maybe I just wasn't ready to deal with. I really wasn't ready to go public with my own story. And until I made that decision, I thought, I cannot sit back and be silent anymore. And I just can't. And I need to speak up and say something, and try to cause a positive change in this world. It doesn't matter how big it is. It's just one more voice. And one more voice out there to say, that we need to be looking out for each other in our own families, especially. You start right with yourself, and you start looking around at who in your world needs a hand, right? And then, community-wide, right, in your community, and then in your city, and then in your country. And it just seems to me it's just going to have to start with each and every one of us, right? That's why this show is called Child Abuse Prevention, and Human Rights Abuse Prevention is up to us. It's literally up to you and me to make this happen, right? It's a daunting task, and for anybody. And I'm so happy to be able to add my voice to those who are out there already doing it and have been for years out there advocating for abuse prevention and awareness and prevention for all abuses, and most especially for child abuse. That has always had a special place in my heart, and I feel bad. I guess I wasn't really ready to come out with my story, and never disclosed it except for to friends. So that's probably what held me back on that. It was just the shame and the anger that I had in my heart for so long. Little over 2 years ago, changed into love and just compassion. And I thought, this is crazy. I need to stand up and say something. I need to be able to. I can help people because I've been there. I've been there, and I know what it's like. So that's the thing, right? We just really have to reach out to people around you who are suffering. Do whatever you can, even if it's just to be a shoulder for them to cry on. Just be a friend. I think that's the most important thing, because I tell you, friends are hard to come by, and I've lost my share of friends over the years just due to mentioning abuse and past abuse and stuff. And certain people, if they'll start talking about something that happened in their family, and then as soon as I tell what happened in my family, they're gone. They're like, no way, I want no part of that. I think it's hard for people to understand what it's like for someone who has dealt with this kind of abuse. And I think people find it very uncomfortable to be around people like that because they don't really know what to say. And really, they don't have to say anything. It's a matter of just being friends, right? Just being a friend, just being there for that person, right? There's no difference. So, I'm with you, and my heart just goes out to you, and I hope that you reach out and find these people and the support that you need, and the professional help too, right? It's so important. I wish I would have got professional help many, many, many years ago. And I didn't, and I suffered for many, many years because of it. So that's why I do promote it. And even if I didn't find a counselor I liked, I'd move on to another counselor. You know what I mean? I'd find one that works for me. So this is what my hope is for you if you're really suffering and you need to hang in there and stay with us, It's so important. So we'll continue on with this. I'd like to continue on with this Friday night. We'll finish up this article, and there's safety plans. You can get a safety plan if you're a person who's living in an abusive home. If you're a victim of domestic violence, domestic assault, male. If you're a male victim or a female victim, both doesn't matter. There's safety plans that you can get. And these are really great because this is so important. You can get this www.domesticviolence.org, and there's other places too you can get the safety plans. You can type right into your computer domestic violence safety plans, and they'll come up with all the websites that have them. They're all pretty similar because what you're supposed to do is call the police, and it says, this is off of www.domesticviolence.org. It says, if you feel you are in danger from your abuser at any time, you can call 911 or your local police. And, I just want you to do that. If your life is being threatened, do not suffer. Don't allow yourself to be killed. Get yourself some help. Get away from your abuser. Call 911 if you have to. It says, consider the following. If you are in danger when the police come, they can protect you. And also, they can help you and your children leave your home safely. And they can arrest your abuser when they have enough proof that you have been abused. They can arrest your abuser if a personal protection order has been violated. And when the police come, tell them everything the abuser did that made you call, right? So you want to keep track of the abuse, right? Make sure you write it down. It's very important. There's so much here. Getting support from friends and family. If you have friends and family who can be supportive, find a safe place. Get medical help. Personalized safety plan. You're supposed to have important numbers with you. There are certain things that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to know and have everything ready to go just in case you have to leave in an emergency and you have to get out right away, right? I would really highly recommend this. They tell you even what items to take with you, to have like copies of things, and also if you can get a hold of the real thing. But you don't want to have to go around looking for this stuff as somebody's trying to kill you or take your life. You want to be prepared. If you're in a domestic violence situation or abusive home, make sure that you have a safety plan in place. Tell someone about it. Have someone call and back you up. Make sure that someone knows that you're in this situation, and have a code maybe where you could phone them and you could say blue or something, and they would phone the police right away. Something to alert them that you are in danger. I'm telling you, your life is worth it. My friend was murdered in a domestic violence situation by her boyfriend, and I tell you what, we had no idea. No idea. Now, she came from a very dysfunctional, abusive home, but the thing is, we all did, and the thing is that by seeing her on a regular basis, we had no idea that this was going on. And when I found out that she had been murdered, I couldn't believe it. I tell you, I believed it because I've seen abuse my whole life. But the thing is, it broke my heart. And she left behind 2 small children, and who knows where they are now. So all I can say is this stuff happens to people I know, happens to people that everybody knows. Don't allow this to happen to yourself, because you are worth it. You deserve to have a good life. If you're listening, make sure you get help. And, get a safety plan and start talking to some domestic violence counselors and get some real good information from professionals who can help you get some real help, right? That's what I say. I'm just here to tell you to get some real help. And I've got some websites here. This is on Facebook. This is my good friend John Schmidt. He is a survivor. He is a survivor of child abuse and domestic violence and everything. This man, he's my good friend. I count him as my brother. And he's got a group on Facebook called Men Are Survivors Too, Resources for Male and Female Victims. He added the females in because he cares very much for women. But it's a huge resource for male victims as well. And he's the president and founder of this group on Facebook. It's called Men Are Survivors Too, Resources for Male and Female Victims. I would highly recommend you go there. He's a great advocate. There is 1 in 6, http www.1in6.org for survivors and supporters. And their mission, the mission of 1 in 6, is to help men who have had unwanted or abusive sexual experiences in childhood live healthier and happier lives. And that there's ways to find help there, recommended books, resources, community outreach. It's called 1 in 6, and that's kind of like linked to the Jim Hopper. You just type in Jim Hopper. He's got some great information on child abuse and domestic violence and male sexual abuse, all kinds of stuff. There is National Center on Domestic and Sexual Violence, www.ncdsv.org. And there's Battered Men, www.batteredmen.com. And Aardvark, www.aardvark.org. These are some great resources, great stuff on their websites, just as far as the articles go. So you all take care. I'll be back on tomorrow morning, 5:30, One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I appreciate your support, and I love you all. Take care and have a great night.